I call this meeting of the Onslow County Board of Commissioners to order. To begin tonight, we will start with a word of prayer and a pledge of allegiance. Ms. Moxley.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we thank you for giving us another day and ask that you bless all who are gathered here this evening to participate in the work of tonight's agenda. Thank you for each member of this Board of Commissioners and for the sacrifice of time spent away from families and other endeavors in order to give of their time, talents, and energy in service to the citizens of Onslow County. Please grant them insight, foresight, and wisdom as they do their best to find solutions to the pressing issues of the day. Eternal Lord, protect the brave men and women who serve in our armed forces, both at home and abroad. And thank you for the USO and the volunteers who support our troops by doing everything possible to provide a home away from home and keep our troops connected to the families they have left behind. Merciful Father, we are saddened by the death of Onslow County Detention Officer Cynthia Cannon. We pray that you will wrap your loving arms around her, her loved ones, and coworkers, and provide them everlasting comfort and strength to face this difficult time. Now, dear Lord, with deep respect for the faith, traditions, and beliefs of all who are gathered here, hear us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. David Cotton, Deputy County Manager, will now lead.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. We appreciate you being here. Special thanks to our sheriff for always being present. And tonight we have some students in the audience from UNCW. Welcome. We're glad to have you. I believe they're going to be future social workers. What a great career. And we're happy to have you with us tonight. The board affords you, the audience, two opportunities to speak during the meeting. The first opportunity is a 3-minute, and we ask that those comments are directed towards an agenda item. The second can be on any topic that this board has authority to over. You first need to sign up in the back of the room, and you will be called forward to the podium according to the way you signed up. Please state your name and address if the clerk does not have it. Make your comments directly to the board in its entirety. No conversation with the audience or audience participation is allowed. We ask that your comments are civil and respectful in nature, and that you do not promote a candidate or a business. The board will reserve any comment at commissioner comments in accordance with our rules of procedure. If you have not turned your cell phone to silence, please do so now. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Agenda passes as written. Do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
That's it.
All in favor of adopting the consent agenda, please indicate by aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Mr. Manager, this brings us to our first public comment of 3 minutes. Do we have anyone signed up?
Madam Chair, there are no individuals signed up for the first public comment period.
Thank you. Would you please take items 4, 5, and 6?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 4, presentations. A, proclamation. One proclamation has been presented for presentation this evening. This time I'll read the proclamation regarding the United Service Organization's 75th anniversary. State of North Carolina, County of Onslow, Proclamation, United Service Organization's USO 75th Anniversary. Whereas in 1941, the USO was established to meet a presidential request for civilian support of the military during World War II. And whereas the USO strengthens America's military service members by keeping them connected to family, home, and country throughout their service to our great nation. Whereas the first facility was opened in Fayetteville, North Carolina, followed quickly by the Jacksonville Center, which was established April 23, 1942, and is the longest continuously operating USO facility in the world. And whereas the Jacksonville USO Center has served and supported over 100,000 service members and their families stationed at Camp Lejeune, New River Air Station, and Cherry Point Air Station. And whereas, with a small staff and substantial number of volunteers, the Jacksonville USO Center has continued to serve the military, their families, and the community with pride and dedication since 1942. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Onslow County Board of Commissioners would like to congratulate the United Service Organization's USO for their unwavering dedication to the community and encourage all citizens to support the many ceremonies and activities that celebrate this momentous celebration. Presented this first day of February 2016 by the Onslow County Board of Commissioners. Representatives of the USO of North Carolina are asked to please come forward to the microphone at this time. They will accept the proclamation. The entire Board of County Commissioners will present the proclamation. Commissioners.
Here it comes. I will speak first if the board doesn't mind, because I know each of them would like to also have a comment to say. This is a tremendous asset to our community, and to think that you've been available and providing services for much longer than what some of us have been alive. But it is truly my honor to present you with this. And all I can say is, on behalf of our servicemen, please keep up the good work.
It's an honor.
Yeah. Would any other commissioners like to make a comment?
Yeah, this is a pleasure for me because I was a former Marine at one time in 1964 when I came here, and I was at the USO back then. And Matt, you will never find out, we're going to dedicate to him on Saturday, I believe it is. And what a fine individual in the Marine Corps himself, and then took all of us under his wing. I'm not just me, thousands and thousands and thousands of Marines that have come through, and Army and Air Force and Navy, everybody that has come through that facility. It has just been a great honor, and I want to thank you, Deb, for what you do and what everybody has done for the USO. Thank you.
Deb, I can't say enough, and after what the commissioners have stated, because we certainly support the efforts of all that you've done here in this community. I know your passion is, you're a driver in this place. I've watched you, I've seen you, and I just really thank you for all the work that you've done in the community. And one of the things I would have to share that as a little girl living here in the United States of America, I can recall and remember the moments, the USO canteen back in the days when Bob Hope was providing all that entertainment to the troops throughout the different nations that we've had to deal with warfare and things going on. So I just thank God for those moments of the USO and what they've stood for the troops, and the times that not only do you service here, but abroad as well. So thank you for your work.
Commissioner, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. And Bob Hope grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. He was born in England, but when he found out he couldn't be king, he moved to Cleveland.
Jackie, do you have some comments?
Congratulations. I walked a beat many a time when I was on the police department and walked by the USO, and I remember just about all the directors, but the one I remember most was Matt Hardeman. Matt Hardeman was always friendly. He was always doing everything he could to help everybody, not just the military, but the law enforcement community also. And he always invited us down there for the dinners, and they always had a function going on all the time. And that same tradition is being carried on now, and I appreciate what y'all do. Congratulations. I think we're going to have a ceremony there at 3 o'clock Saturday,
3:30.
Saturday afternoon. I'll be there.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Sir.
I also appreciate what you did. I was also in service, but I never got a chance to use the USO because as soon as I got out of basic training, I had to go to Korea. So, but since I've been back and been in Jacksonville, I've seen the good things they have done and seen the young Marines enjoying it, and it's just been a pleasure to see the USO still operating and going good now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service.
Okay, Deb.
Well, thank you very much. This is quite an honor. I'd like to introduce some of our advisory committee members. Chuck Huff is our advisory committee chair. Marion Plasica and Michael Searles are both our advisory committee members. This is truly an honor. We do our best. We want to thank the county commissioners and Chris White with the airport. We have an airport lounge now, if you haven't seen it. It's absolutely gorgeous. So that's great for the traveling military and the young Marines who just get out of boot camp and look like they got the deer with the headlights on. Look, and the nice, comforting USO volunteers there to help direct them. So thank you very much. We certainly appreciate this. Well, we're doing our official ribbon cutting on Thursday at the airport at 11, and we're looking forward to that. And we are going to be rededicating the USO Center in downtown Jacksonville to retired Sergeant Major Matt Hardiman in his honor, because he was single-handedly responsible for keeping that place going during the lean years.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay.
They going.
Commissioners, I'd ask you to stay there beside the flags for the next presentation. USO, thank you so much. Presentation is item B, Community Rating System Award. This title is misleading. This sounds like it's an award to Onslow County, but in reality, it's good news for a lot of citizens of Onslow County. It's my pleasure to welcome to Onslow County and to introduce Mr. John Gerber, the National Flood Insurance Program State Coordinator for North Carolina. Mr. Gerber will be presenting a plaque to the Board of Commissioners acknowledging the county's acceptance into the Community Rating System Program. FEMA's Community Rating System Program was created as an incentive-based program designed to minimize future flood-related losses of life and property. Participation in the program results in discounted flood insurance premiums for qualified policyholders. The amount of discount is dependent upon a jurisdiction's rating. Most communities enter the program rated as a 9, which is a 5% reduction in premiums, and upgrade after a year to an 8, which would be a 10% reduction in premiums or a lower classification. Onslow County has been working on its application over the last 2 years to gain entry into the CRS program. Based upon the county's existing floodplain development standards and outreach efforts, the county will be entering the CRS program with a rating of 7. This will provide qualified flood insurance policyholders with a 15% discount on their flood insurance premiums. Mr. Gerber, we really welcome you to Onslow County.
I'm pleased to be able to present this to recognize Onslow County. On behalf of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, they like to make these presentations, but they asked, in this case, they were unable to do it, so they asked me to make this presentation. So it's significant, very significant. Onslow County joined the National Flood Insurance Program in 1975 in the emergency phase, and then they were converted to the regular phase in 1987. There's currently almost 2,000 NFIP policies in force for over $502 million in coverage. Onslow County has experienced over $22 million in flood insurance claims over the years. And they were enrolled in the community rating system as of October 1 of 2015 as a Class 7, which means that, like you said, a 15% reduction. There's very few communities that actually go into the CRS at a Class 7. There's only about 15% of all the communities in North Carolina are in the community rating system. Even less than that are Class 7 or better. So this is very significant. There's a lot of work that the staff did to have this recognition. So on behalf of FEMA, the plaque says, for Onslow County for successfully participating in the National Flood Insurance Program Community Rating System, the community has undertaken a series of meaningful activities to protect its citizens from flood losses caused by flooding has significantly exceeded the requirements for NFIP participation and effective floodplain management. It's signed by Roy Wright, who's a Deputy Associate Administrator for the Insurance Mitigation Section, Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Thank you. I gladly accept this plaque, but moreover, I gladly accept the 15% discount that 2,000 citizens in this county are going to get on their flood insurance. You know, local government, the Board of Commissioners and our staff work every day because there are so many external factors that impact how much we pay here in Onslow County. Wind and hail, flood, Mother Nature takes a whipping on us, but we do all we can to minimize the impact that it has financially on us. And I do want to say one thing, so bear with me. I don't think many people realize this Board of Commissioners has set aside $5 million in a disaster-ready fund. So if an event does occur, this county will not have to sit and wait 72 hours for FEMA to come in before we can start bringing relief to our citizens. We have a contingent fund set aside, so our citizens will be taken care of immediately. So the 15% we're grateful for, but we look out for our own here in Onslow County. Thank you.
Barbara said it all. The biggest thing I want to say is thank you for the citizens of Onslow County. Thank you from them, because that's what counts.
Thank you for coming and presenting this to us. Anytime we can get a break on insurance premiums, we're inundated with wind and hail, as you know, on the beach property. So this is a blessing in disguise that we got. That I didn't know about it, but we do have contingency money, like the chairman said. Thank you, sir.
I choose not to be redundant because I think those that have gone ahead of me have stated everything, but I would just like to thank and acknowledge each of the staff members that have put in the work behind the scenes, because it is the staff, as Madam Chair stated, that we have a phenomenal staff, and we appreciate and acknowledge each of you for the work that you do Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And some of those of you that are beyond the 9 to 5 sometimes, I know they exist as well. So thank you again.
I just say thank you for the recognition, and I will say this, anytime I believe this board did, that we can go to Raleigh and lobby our insurance commissioner for cheaper rates, I expect we'll do it. We did this time, and we're going to keep on fighting.
Thank you. Thank you.
That concludes item B. As a side note, Mr. Gerber, once again, thank you. And I would also like to recognize, as commissioners go back to their seats, Mr. Ben Warren and the staff of Planning and Development. Mr. Warren, you and your staff took the lead in pursuing the National Flood Insurance Program's community rating system. And it took a long time, and as the Commissioner stated, the efforts of you and your staff are not unnoticed. Thank you, sir. Item 5, general items. Health and Communities funding. Ms. Angela Lee, the Onslow County Health Director, will present this item to the board. Director Lee.
Good evening, Commissioners, Madam Chair. The Onslow County Health Department received a Healthy Communities Agreement Addendum for the service period of June 1st, 2015 through May 31st, 2016, which has been utilized to support staff and programs in health promotions. The state recently received additional funding, which they have passed to local health departments. The additional monies are to be used to implement a new intervention, expand a current intervention, or provide additional training to staff. The Health Department wishes to utilize these funds to expand an existing program which prevents new diagnoses of diabetes by educating those most at risk of developing the chronic disease so they do not become diabetic. The intent of the funding is to ensure health equity and mitigate health disparities, improve programs that support healthy communities, and address the local prevalence of chronic disease and associated risk factors. We respectfully request acceptance of the additional Healthy Community Funds in the amount of $4,160, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
A second? Second. Any questions for Ms. Lee? Reference the grant? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank
you.
Item B, Home and Community Care Block Grant. Ms. Sherry Slater, Assistant County Manager, will be available to present this item to the board and answer any questions.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, Commissioners. The Onslow County Senior Services provides many of its services through our Home and Community Care Block Grant funding. Those services include adult daycare, in-home services, congregate nutrition, and Meals on Wheels. Recently, the county was notified that the state has restored some of the funding for block grant that had previously been cut. That funding in the amount of $11,124 is what's before you this evening. There is a required county match of $426 that can be met with existing senior services budget, so no additional money would be required.
What's the board's pleasure? To approve the grant?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any questions, Ms. Slater? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
It's not about this grant. I want to ask you a question. I've had a couple of questions asked me this week about senior center. The senior center, and the senior center is dear to WC's heart, because I am a senior. I've never used it, but it's a good place for our old people to go that needs help and so forth. But my question was asked to me about the transit buses. Why in the world do we run transit buses to pick one person up? And this, you know, I mean, I can answer it, but maybe they're listening tonight at this program, and maybe you can explain it better than I can explain it, if you would.
Sure, I'll be happy to. We do have two programs at Senior Services that are provided with regard to the transit. One is general transportation, which is one of the requirements of the Home and Community Care Block Grant is that we provide access to services. And for those seniors who are no longer able to drive, perhaps just don't have a vehicle or a way to get in, access to services is in the form of having a transit system that can bring them into the center. For most of Onslow County, there's not public transit, and as our senior center is outside of that public transit route in the city, that doesn't work for those citizens either. So we contract with Onslow United Transit to provide the access to services that the grant requires. Additionally, the grant provides for medical transportation. That allows our seniors who are not on Medicaid and don't have a way to get to a doctor's appointment or to the pharmacy to pick up their prescriptions, it allows them a way to make that happen. Many times seniors will end up going into placement prematurely simply because they don't have access to some of the most basic services. If you can't get to the doctor and you don't have anyone who can take you, that can be a reason that you end up either neglecting your health care and causing placement, or just simply, if you go into placement, you know that the facility will take you to the doctor. So sometimes it's as simple as that. The grant provides for access to medical transportation for those seniors who are not on Medicaid and can't get that in any other way. So we coordinate through Onslow United Transit to pick up our seniors for these two programs. It's Onslow United Transit's scheduling program that determines who gets picked up by what van. We don't control that because it is a public transit system. And so you may occasionally see one person picked up by a van. That could be because their trip is specific to a doctor's appointment, that no one else in the area is going in that direction at that moment. It could be that they're going 2 blocks over to pick someone else up to go on to the next stop. So there are lots of reasons you might see one person on a van at one time, but generally those rides are shared rides, and the scheduling is coordinated for maximum use and maximum efficiency of the transit program. But how many people are on a given van is up to that transit program as opposed to us. Did that answer your question, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sherry,
One more to add to that, Ms. Slater. The Meals on Wheels. I was asking about how much we paid the people for Wheels on Meals, and I answered them, but I'd like you to answer.
Sure. Actually, we not only don't pay them, it costs them a good deal of money to deliver Meals on Wheels. Our Meals on Wheels volunteers provide all of the delivered meals. The meals come into the senior center, volunteers pick them up from the center, and then transport them out to the clients' homes totally at their own expense. Last year, we had 120 volunteers on our rolls, and they provided just about 14,000 hours of volunteer service. If you multiply that by the dollar amount that a volunteer hour averaged in 2015, it was just over $23 an hour for volunteer service as the standard rate. That placed the value of our volunteer hours at over $300,000 just for senior services for 2015. Now, I can tell you to my staff, it was worth a whole lot more than $300,000, but that is the value that's placed on it in terms of what you can claim for the value of a volunteer hour. So they not only do we not pay them to do it, but we don't reimburse them for gas, wear and tear on their cars, any of that stuff. We did try as a staff several, maybe 6 or 8 years ago, we tried as a staff to offer them gas cards. We did some fundraising on our own, just as staff bringing in gas cards, and the volunteers to a person all said thank you, but no, that's not why we do it. So they would not even allow staff to try to help and contribute to their gas. And that was, by the way, when gas was $4 a gallon, which is the reason we felt it necessary to try to pitch in. And they were not interested. That was not why they were doing it. So it costs them a great deal of time, and it costs them a great deal of money to volunteer for that program. And we could not do it without them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes,
I have
sir.
some more, but I'm gonna let you go tonight.
I got one more I want to add to the deficit. I know the answer, but I want you to go ahead and tell the public, how many meals do we serve in-house and how many meals do we serve by wheel?
Okay. We served, in 2015, we served a little over 23,000 meals in the nutrition sites, and there are 5 nutrition sites. We have a site in, of course, our main site, which is just down the road on Highway 258. We have a site in Sneads Ferry, which actually just moved to the old Sneads Ferry Library. They've served their first meals today. We'll have a grand opening later this month. We serve a nutrition site in Richlands. There's a nutrition site in the Belgrade area, and also in Swansboro. So there are 5 sites around the county. Again, we served a little over 23,000 meals last year in the sites, and I believe just about 14,000 meals in home-delivered meals around the county last year as well.
Thank you, Sherry.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to just ask one quick thing. How long is the waiting list, and is there any way that we can expedite that list?
The waiting list for Meals on Wheels is a little tricky, and I'll try to explain it as best I can. there is not just one Meals on Wheels route. We have to serve the meals within a certain number of minutes from when they come in. They have to stay at a certain temperature. So with that in mind, the route for a Meals on Wheels driver is about 10 citizens. And so because they have to keep the meals hot, they have equipment they have to carry in their cars. There's only so much room. The boxes are rather large that keep them hot. And so a Meals on Wheels route is 10 people. We are always on the hunt for volunteers, certainly. We have around 10 to 12 routes at any given time. There are 91 people on the waiting list right now, but it's hard to say how long it takes to come up, because it works like this. There's a route in Sneads Ferry. And so if you're in Sneads Ferry on the waiting list, it's specific to that area, because somebody from Piney Green can't drive the route in Sneads Ferry also. They can't make that, geographically it's not possible or feasible. So there is a waiting list for Sneads Ferry, and there is a waiting list for Richlands. So if I give you the number, it's 91, but that's the total county. If I break it out by area, for Richlands, it's about 20. For Sneads Ferry, it's somewhere around 23 or 4, I believe. So it's a little tricky. It may take longer to move up on the waiting list in one geographic area versus another.
Well, if we had an extra volunteer, could we do 2 routes in one area rather than expand the delivery that one driver has?
Sure, we could to a point. There is a top on the budget. We would have, there is money in the budget to do a few more routes if we can get that number of volunteers. With a route, there are generally 5 volunteers for each route, because there's somebody who drives it every Monday and somebody who drives it every Tuesday and so forth. And then the balance of our volunteers are what we call subs, and they're those wonderful, amazing, flexible people who I say, I need you today on this route and tomorrow on that route and for a week on that route, and they say, okay, and they just kind of do whatever we ask them to do. So we have to not only have the routes filled, but we have to have subs to fill in when somebody's not feeling well or when they go on vacation or whatever the case may be, because our volunteers have the same issues we all have in our jobs. They need time off sometimes. And so if we can, build our volunteer base, we certainly could open another route or 2. There are challenges to that, though, because in some areas it's not a whole route we need, but in another area we need a route and a half. And so, it's a little bit of, it's kind of like a really complicated puzzle to keep it, to work it to the maximum benefit without overtaxing any particular area. But there is money in the budget to do probably 1 to 2 more routes if we had enough volunteers. But again, each volunteer space is a minimum of 5 volunteers for each route.
So to all of y'all that want to feel needed and loved, here's a great place. I'm sure those seniors would be so grateful if you would volunteer to deliver meals.
The staff would be grateful as well. But yes, ma'am, for a lot of our homebound folks, this is the only contact they have in a day.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something that means a lot to them, more than the meal itself. It's much more than the meal.
Okay. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you,
Thank
Sherry.
you.
Item C, Resolution 16002, a resolution in support of Onslow County's New River and commercial fishing industry. This is a resolution under consideration by the board this evening. At this time, I'll read the resolution into the record. Resolution 1602, whereas the United States Marine Corps has found unexploded ordnance, UXO, from military training exercises dating back to the 1940s in over 800 acres of area within the New River surrounding the K2 impact range in Sneads Ferry. And whereas investigation by the United States Marine Corps has determined that the UXO is still capable of detonation, potentially causing serious bodily harm or death to unsuspecting citizens. And whereas Onslow County desires to protect all military and civilian residents and visitors from harm, and whereas the New River is a vital natural and economic resource central to the identity and well-being of the county, and whereas the most recent data available from the North Carolina Department of Environment Quality and North Carolina Department of Commerce indicates that the fishing and tourism industries within Onslow County generate an annual economic impact of approximately $265.7 million, with 819 jobs being directly and indirectly associated with the fishing industry and 1,730 jobs directly attributable to travel and tourism. And whereas Onslow County has met with many representatives of the fishing industry in Sneads Ferry, who report that the area around the K2 impact range comprises some of the most productive fishing grounds in the New River. And whereas the New River is an important fish hatchery along the North Carolina coast and should be protected from any harm. And whereas Onslow County appreciates the transparency federal officials have shown and believe that everyone currently facing this issue wishes to protect the public from harm, preserve our fishing and tourism industries, and still be able to support all training necessary for our continued national security. Therefore, be it resolved that the County of Onslow calls upon the federal government to, 1, fully investigate with maximum transparency the threats surrounding the K2 impact area. 2, inform the public of all options available to protect the public and preserve both our essential fishing and tourism industries and river ecosystem. 3, clean up any confirmed environmental hazards within the New River. 4, invest in long-term permanent assistance to the fishing and tourism industries of Onslow County due to harm done to these industries by activities of the federal government. Adopted this the first day of February 2016. Madam Chair, this item is available for Commissioner consideration.
Now I have a motion to...
Motion to approve.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of support of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Item 6, appointments. Eastern Carolina Workforce Development Board. A 28-member board of directors governs the Eastern Carolina Workforce Development Board in partnership with local elected officials. It is the designated administrative and fiscal agent for federal and state workforce development funds appropriated by the North Carolina Department of Commerce to operate employment and training services in a 9-county local area. Mr. Ralph Leeds, representing the Public Employment Service category, retired in December, leaving a vacant position on the board. Staff has received a citizen participation application from Mr. Carl Zerl, who has expressed an interest in serving in this categorical position. The application is on file, has been certified by the clerk, and the specific action requested is to respectfully consider appointment of Mr. Carl Zerl, the Public Employment Service category, for a remaining 2-year term expiring June 30, 2017.
What's the board's pleasure?
Move to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
B, Onslow County Planning Board. The Planning Board works with Planning and Development Department staff to ensure the orderly growth and development of land in the county and the proper administration of land use regulations. Mr. Gene Taylor, the second, White Oak Township category, resigned effective August 15, 2015. Ms. Mickey W. White has expressed an interest in serving in the White Oak Township category and has provided a citizen participation application. No other individuals have expressed an interest. The vacancy had been advertised. The application is on file and has been certified by the clerk's office. The specific action requested is consider the appointment of Ms. Mickey W. White in the White Oak Township category for the remainder of a 3-year term which would expire July 31st, 2016.
Move with leave.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously.
Item C, Equalization Review Board. The Onslow County Board of Equalization and Review is a 5-member special board appointed on an annual basis by the Board of County Commissioners. The primary functions of the Board of Equalization and Review are defined by North Carolina General Statute 105-322 and include review tax lists, hear taxpayer appeals regarding the listing or appraisal of their property or the property of other taxpayers, the duty to change abstracts and records after adjournment, which includes appeals resulting from discoveries, audits, and personal property appeals. By statute, the Board of Equalization must convene between the first Monday in April and the first Monday in May of each year to hear real estate appeals. The length of the session is dependent on the volume of the appeal request. Once the board adjourns, no further real estate appeals may be heard until the next year. The board also meets in the fall of each year after adjournment to hear personal property appeals. Personal property owners have 30 days from the date of their tax bill to appeal personal property values or situs. The board also hears appeals resulting from discoveries or audits during their fall session. The current term for the Board of Equalization and Review expires on February 28, 2016. Current members are Mr. Philip Mercer, Mr. Todd Daugherty, Mr. Dennis Bragg, and Mr. Charles Rawls, who have all expressed a desire to continue serving on the board for the next term. Mr. Philip Mercer is willing to serve as chairman of the board. The applications are on file and have been certified by the clerk's office. Mr. Huey Miller has resigned after 20 years of service to this board, creating one vacancy. The specific action requested is to consider reappointment of Mr. Philip Mercer, Mr. Todd Daugherty, Mr. Dennis Bragg, and Mr. Charles Rawls for a one-year term which would expire on February 28, 2017, and appoint Mr. Philip Mercer as chairman for a one-year term which expires on February 28, 2017.
Ms. Warren, who takes Mr. Miller's place? I know Philip Mercer's going to be the chairman, but won't that leave one extra one off of that board?
Yes, sir.
You
Nope.
still got an opening for that
Yes,
on
sir.
that
We're
board?
taking applications.
Good. That's what it was.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Passes unanimously.
Item D, Public Safety Memorial Committee. The Onslow County Public Safety Memorial commemorates those who have died in the line of duty and recognizes their selfless dedication and service to our community. The Onslow County Public Safety Memorial Commission will meet annually to review the nominations and render a decision of an individual's eligibility for inclusion at the Onslow County Public Safety Memorial. The commission may meet more frequently at their discretion. Commission members are appointed by the Board of Commissioners. Applications are on file, have been certified by the clerk's office. The following individuals have submitted their names for possible inclusion in the Public Safety Memorial Committee. I will read their name, their category. All of their terms would expire January 31st, 2019, should the board approve them. Michael Cayley, Rescue Services Representative. Eric Carlson, at-large. Michael or Kevin Davis, Fire Service Representative. Beth Himes, Emergency Services Representative. Brian Kelly, ex officio non-voting representative who will serve as the secretary. Lee McKnight, Law Enforcement Representative. Jeffrey Dusty Rhodes, at-large member. Timothy Van Pelt, at-large member. The specific action requested is to appoint the listed applicants in the respective categories and establish a 3-year term for this Public Safety Memorial Committee, with the first term expiring January 31st, 2019.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. No items were pulled from the consent agenda. So, Mr. Manager, do we have anyone signed up for the 5 minutes?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do. This is the second public comment period. There is a 5-minute time limit during the second public comment period. In accordance with the board's rules of procedure, commissioners shall reserve responses, if any, for the commissioner comment period at the end of the agenda. Citizens shall have the opportunity to talk about any issue upon which the Board of Commissioners have control. The individual that is signed up to speak during this second public comment period is Mr. Kevin O'Connor of 210 Newport Drive, Jacksonville. Mr. O'Connor, you have the podium for a time period not to exceed 5 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mr. Hudson. Kevin O'Connor, 210 Newport Drive. At the candidates forum, it was stated by one of the county commissioners that we, as in the Board of Commissioners, did not raise taxes. And if you go back and look at the tax rates prior to the reevaluation a couple of years ago, that's absolutely an accurate statement. It was 58 cents for a while, and then you had the reevaluation. However, I disagree with the statement. There was a tax increase because what happened is when the ad valorem tax was changed, the city of Jacksonville was short $2 million, in which the first year, and that was done at the 11th hour, the first year they took that money out of the bank, and then the following year, the reevaluation year, out of the 10 cents, approximately 5 cents of that was directly related to the switch to the ad valorem tax rate. Now, when you switch to the ad valorem tax rate, the county put a little over $1 million in their pocket, and then the rest of that went down to North Topsail Beach, Surf City, et cetera. So I asked the question, why would the county switch to the ad valorem year before they're having a reevaluation for a little over $1 million in their pocket? And basically what it comes down to is, I had to connect the dots. When I looked at the 13-14 budget, the budget clearly stated that the county budget was running 2 cents below revenue neutral. When I went back to the previous county commissioners forum prior to the last election, it was clearly stated by the incumbents at the time that there was absolutely nothing that the board could cut out of the budget back in 2012. Well, what happened is I connected the dots. Onslow County didn't have any money in its savings account. And then I went into the, or let me rephrase that. They were at the minimum that was required by the state in their savings account. So what happened is I went back and I looked at a couple of the budget meetings, and then I went back and I looked at the city of Jacksonville. And this is very, very simple. This is what happened. Is during the budget process in the previous years that you were running a really tight budget, you basically were using up your savings account. And it was clearly stated in one of the budget meetings, workshops, which need to be aired. And what happened is once I put that together with everything else that was going on, and you were running at or below the minimum required, if you did that, what would happen is the state would start sending you some nasty letters saying, hey, you can't run at the minimum or below it. And potentially the state could come back in and take over the budget of Onslow County. So the quick cash in the pocket back in 13-14 was because you were running the budget at the bare minimums as far as the savings is concerned. So what happened is you took it to the residents of Jacksonville, and the actions of this board directly affected the increase in approximately 5 cents of the 10-cent tax increase to the residents of Jacksonville. That is not something that I expect out of the county commissioners. That should have been up front. And that $1 million was basically 1 cent on the dollar, or 1 cent as far as property tax value is concerned. And what happened is you did that to the residents of Jacksonville, so there was a tax increase to all the residents of Jacksonville, all the commercial properties from Kmart all the way out to Yop Road, from Lejeune Boulevard and Western, all the way out to Western Boulevard Extension and Gum Branch. Every single one of those individuals saw a tax increase because, as I stated in a previous meeting, this board did not have the political courage to call it the way that it was. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else, Mr. Manager?
There are no other individuals that have signed up for the second public comment period.
Okay. Let's begin commissioner comments tonight with Ms. Williamson.
Yes, I'd like to share that the commissioners, we attended the meetings held for those families that will be affected with the fishing industry. And my hope is that at the end of the investigation period, that it proves to be a righteous way in order for these families to be able to move forward and not be affected in a very negative impact. So I'm hoping and praying at the end of the day that the families will not have to deal with, could potentially create devastation for the families of Onslow County. So I know myself and the rest of the commissioners are really doing whatever we can to help support the process. As you've seen in the resolution tonight, we stand firm with the citizens, and we will continue to do so. And one other item I just want to share, Madam Commissioner, on our calendar, the Council of Arts, their opening reception will take place on the 7th of this month, the African American Music Trail. So any of you that are available that Sunday from 4 to 6 at 868 New Bridge, please come out and support that aspect of the community. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Mr. Bright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to start out by saying we have 2 Academy Award-winning employees in our midst tonight. One of them is Jeff Hudson, our county manager, for winning the Chamber of Commerce Man of the Year Award. Congratulations to our manager. And Ms. Angela Lee winning the Woman of the Year Award with the Chamber's presentation last week. Congratulations again to you, and you guys, you make us proud. So thank you for doing enough stuff to get recognized, and I know you couldn't do it all by yourself, but you were there and you were in the leadership position, so thank you and congratulations. One other thing, and I'll try to be brief with this, but we had on the consent agenda tonight, and I was originally going to pull it, but I just want, Harry, if you could come up and just give us a little bit of information about the $5,661,000 of uncollected county property tax, and just tell us, just be real brief if you could, sir. I think that's a good bit of change, and it's about 4 cents on the tax books.
Well, this is fairly typical for this time of the year in the collection cycle. Basically, at the end of the collection period, before the taxes become delinquent each year, the tax collector is responsible for reporting to the board how much delinquent taxes there are on the books that still hold a lien on real property, and that's what the figure is. It's in the consent agenda tonight. And like I said, I'm not sure exactly what the number was last year. I'd be glad to check on that and let you know, but typically I think it's pretty consistent where it typically is at this time of the year, so I think we're still on pace to make our collection percentage at or equal to what it was last year.
But for the people that's watching, we're still in the process of collecting that money.
Right. The end of the fiscal year is June 30th, and once the collection deadline passes, our collection staff is busy reaching out and making contact with taxpayers who have not yet fulfilled their tax obligation for this year, and we'll be sending out delinquent notices probably towards the end of the month or the first week of February.
Seems like that number is getting higher, and that's the reason I was a little bit concerned about it, but that's all.
I'm not sure what the number was last year, but I'd be more than happy to check on it for you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Well, Harry, don't we normally run about 90% collection overall?
Well, at the end of the fiscal year, it's closer to around 97% or so.
Okay, so that's excellent.
But at the end of December, it's somewhere, like in the 85 to 90% range. I don't recall exactly what the number was. And then at the end of by January 5th, which is the payment deadline, it goes up more because a lot of folks wait till the end of the calendar year to come in and pay. And then once the delinquent notices come out, more comes in and pays, and there'll be more coming in before the end of June.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Jarman?
Yeah, I have one or two little things I'd like to mention, real brief. I would like, Mr. O'Connor, I would like when you're addressing the board, please don't use the word you're putting the money in your pocket, because we don't put it in the pockets, we put it in the general funds. And it's kind of, people say, listen at you saying, oh, they're putting the money in the pocket. Use the term what we do with the money, put it in general fund. And I would like to make an announcement that we're going to have a groundbreaking tomorrow at 3 o'clock at Richlands for elementary school that I'm very proud we're going to get, one that we need very badly. And I know the critic says we don't need a school, but thank God we're going to get one in Richlands, and we're going to have groundbreaking tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Jarman. Vice Chair?
I have a few things, but one I want to discuss. I'm not going to, just tell you about it, but Cynthia Cannon passed away yesterday, and I happened to get to know her pretty well in the last 3 weeks. She's in our detention officer class with 7 other detention officers. So we lost one of our family members yesterday. And the work ethics that young lady had for the 3 weeks that I had with her was amazing. And I got to talk to some of the other people today, and I understand she came out of the kitchen, she worked in the kitchen and served meals, and I understand that was another outstanding individual she was for her work ethics, and I want to praise the sheriff for hiring that young lady. And the work ethics, I just wish we could see more work ethics, and it's a great loss to us, and if anything that we can do to help that family, I'm willing to do that. And then we go to the other side of the coin. Our staff, you've heard me say it many, many times, they're the best. I mean, I know when Christmas came, they raised money for needed families. Recently, the Onslow County Veteran Services will participate tomorrow, February 2nd, 2016, at the 6th Annual Homeless Stand Down at the American Legion. This is an opportunity to assist those individuals that may need items to make their conditions more bearable. Onslow County staff generously donated to the veterans who are homeless and living in the streets. This is amazing. 1,435 pairs of socks, 1,189 cans of food, 153 toothbrushes, toothpaste, and shampoo, and 17 hats and gloves. I mean, kudos to our staff. It's just so much our employees do for others. So I want to thank you for that, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Vice Chair, for sharing that. Just a couple comments about our volunteers. We heard tonight how valuable they are in delivering meals. You hear each week we appoint people to different boards and committees. The county has 32 boards, and each one of those boards has probably a minimum of 5, sometimes more, members on those boards. Our volunteers are invaluable to the county. They ask nothing, they serve willingly, and they do an outstanding job. So I know we've got posts all the time of different positions and places that people could volunteer. So I implore you, if you have some free time, if you have a willing heart, please come forward. Your services will be appreciated, not only by this board and our staff, but by the citizens, that you may make a big difference in their life day to day. So please volunteer. If there's nothing more to come before this board, can I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor of adjourning? Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
You skipped Jeff tonight.